Real Enigmas and Theories is back again with another video. Severance Season 2, Episode 4 answered the mystery of Helena versus Heliar and provided some unexpected yet hinted at revelations. More significantly, Irv's third eye is wide open, and we're going to break down exactly what that means along with hidden symbolism embedded throughout the episode. But before we get into that, go ahead and do all that dope YouTube stuff, and if you're new here, welcome. There will be spoilers if you're not caught up to episode 4. So without further ado, let's cook. We start this episode off with Irv's Eni waking up, and we end it with him shutting down. But every single detail in between is very important, all the way from the MDR twins to Irv's crazy dreams that he had in the woods. Now, our favorite refiners are having an outdoor retreat team building occurrence, or ORTBO. I noticed Sydney Cole Alexander, the actress who plays Natalie, posted this in her stories on Instagram, and I thought that the letters could have been an anagram for robot. We do know in at least one Lumen location they have animated robots of the Egans, so I'm guessing that those MDR twins may have been some sort of robot. They could have been projections as well, but if they were projections, you would think that they would look more like them and they wouldn't move so robotically. This one right here doesn't look like Dylan at all. He would probably fit the description, but he doesn't look like him. You know what I'm saying? There was also something real strange about the mill chick that was in the video that just popped up out of nowhere. I thought his mannerisms were very robotic, and it was even a part where his hair looked red. I think that was because of the video quality. But you can also see that there are multiple mill chicks in a few of these clips. Take a look at this. Now, I didn't alter these at all or anything. These are literally two different shots. One, he looks a little bit slimmer and taller, and one, he looks a little shorter and his hair looks matted down a little bit more. He was glitching all over the place, and he was very robotic. You know what I'm saying? He reminded me of Max Headroom. This, along with the MDR twins, makes me automatically think about all the replicas we see in the title intros. Now, speaking of that Milchick video, after they got done watching the video, Irving calls Milchick a Montbank, which immediately caught my attention. Because if you've been following my videos, you know that I've been discussing the possibility that Kier Egan was actually a snake oil salesman. I've touched on this in a couple other different videos, even connecting the goats to John Brinkley, who was a snake oil salesman in the time of Kier. Historically, the original mountebanks of the 17th and 18th century Europe would stand on the benches at public squares, dazzling the crowd with sleights of hand, magic tricks, and promises of miracle cures. They were known as charlatans. By the 19th century in America, snake oil salesmen were running the same grift, peddling fake medicines, using paid actors to vouch for them, and vanishing before anybody could catch on to what was going on, often leaving with some kind of circus or road show. Fast forward to today, and the game hasn't really changed much. It's just the medium. Instead of wagons, these modern day fraudsters use social media to push fake health trends, financial scams, and ideological grifts. They still rely on charisma and scripted testimonials, just enough false hope to keep the money flowing in. What makes this reference so dope is that it ties back to everything that I've been saying in my videos. And then Irv takes it a step further by ending it with saying, not even televisually. That line highlights how the same type of charlatan transcends time and technology, adapting their schemes for a new era, much like we see with Lumen. One thing that I totally found odd about this episode is that no one mentioned how cold it was. I mean, they did have the Russian snow gear dripping, but no one seemed to be cold at all or complained about the temperature. It's kind of interesting because they had the Russian gear on, and Mark's wife was a Russian literature teacher, I believe. It seems like it was cold enough just to keep them from passing out from heat exhaustion from having those types of clothes on. And that makes me wonder where all of this was really taking place. My guess is some type of holographic projection room technology, or it could have actually been a simulation implanted in their brain with wires and everything. Or it could have been a little bit of both, who knows? We do see a team building location on the map that Petey drew, right next to the perpetuity wing. The figure next to the drawing of the team building room looks like it has cords coming from his head, with 3 lines in which 2 of them come from the eyes, and the third one could represent the third eye. It would make sense that Lumen, being as powerful as they are, would be able to pull this off in a number of different ways. I mean, these people have a replica house under an entire office building, and there's no telling how far down the operation actually goes into the earth. And where were Milchick and Miss Wong disappearing to? Now, seeing our MDR team walking through the frozen tundra to find a book in a cave about a man masturbating in front of his brother only to spill the seed into the soil is wild. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I would have been mad as hell if I would have had to walk through all of that shit just to find a book that said that about Kier and his twin brother. Y'all could have told us this shit at the kitchenette or something. I mean, what the fuck? But you know damn well that this man didn't sit up there and melt like the Wicked Witch of the West. Something must have happened. Kier might have killed his brother. This man was lying his ass off on his deathbed with a biblical reference to Onan and Tamar in the Bible. But we'll get to that a little bit later. And then with chapter 2 being about the stealing nanny, that shit sounds like an X-Videos title. You got Kier's head on the marshmallows, pause. Mark and Helly getting busy and Mark goes in for seconds. Helena waking up feeling so good that she just had to go look at the waterfall in the morning. You had Gemma popping up out of nowhere to cock block real quick. I mean, you got all types of shit happening in this episode. But let's back up before we get to the part where Irv pretty much exposes everything. It would seem that MDR was staggered in as usual, with Mark having already been there, arriving before Irv, and then we see Helena, and then we see Dylan. Helena was the only one that wasn't out on the ice so far as we know that actually said that, but Dylan didn't look like he came from the ice either. Irv asked her where she came from, and she said she didn't know. And I'm sitting there like, what you mean you didn't know? I mean, she could have said something like, I just came from over there by the trees or something, or I was standing on a rock when I woke up. You don't know where you just now came from? That shit don't make no sense. And Irv's spidey senses was on that shit. Yo, Helena was lying this whole time, and she didn't have any good material with any kind of good substance. I mean, this motherfucker said a night gardener.
A night gardener.
We learned that Kier has a twin, and at first I thought this could be a lie. But we saw the name of a band in episode 2 when Milchick leaves to go fire Irv and Dylan. The band's name pretty much points to Kier, as he is Dieter's brother, and it was Dieter's brother was the name of the band. This would mean that someone else outside has knowledge of Kier's twin, right? Maybe Kier didn't kill him and he just severed the bond that he had with his twin brother. It could also have been in Kier's mind or a fabricated history by Lumen, but either way, someone out there has referenced him by naming a band. Now, Milchick passes a sign that says Dieter's brother live no minimum. So this could have some sort of double meaning that Dieter's brother is alive, meaning Kier is a part of some sort of hive mind. Now, they get to this book in the cave and they start reading it. And Helly's the first one to start reading the book. But then Irv takes over as they make their way out of the cave and they start walking on to somewhere where they can find somewhere to stay for the night. And as Irv continues to read the book, we begin to hear Kier's voice recording, reading over top of it as well. I think that maybe Kier may have felt some jealousy towards his brother for how much in tune he was with nature, while Kier was being the slick-talking, charismatic charlatan to be. His journey into Scissor's cave might be symbolic of him severing ties with his brother and moving on to another life. And I'm sure that being close to a twin brother, that would probably be a painful necessity to move forward and seek those ambitions of the Lumen Empire. Either that, or he killed his brother like Cain from the Bible. And this wouldn't be a far stretch, being that the story of the brother spilling his lineage into the soil is a biblical nod to Onan and Tamar in the Bible. He was okay with smashing his brother's widow, but he didn't want to get her pregnant because the baby would be considered his brother's by law. And due to Onan not following his lineage duties, God struck him down for not getting his brother's widow pregnant. That's crazy, right? It would be wild to find out that he actually switched places with his brother and took on the life of Kier. And we're getting the cover-up story that has been reinforced by Lumen for over a century. I found it interesting that Helena makes light of the story in an attempt to be like her Eni, but Irv sees that play and he's like, yo, this shit ain't funny. And Milchick not scolding Helly while she mocks the founder's forbidden history is a clue that he's in on the rules of Helena and Helly. I was on the fence about Helena and Helly the whole time, but when Irv asked her where did she come from and she said she didn't know, I knew right away that she was on some bullshit. Irv tries to speak to Mark and mention that night story from Helly doesn't add up, but Mark is blinded by his feelings for her. Then they stumble across a frozen dead creature along the stream that seems to be covered in black goo and badly decomposed. It looks like some sort of hybrid animal, and it has what appears to be some sort of an aquatic animal tail with thick whiskers. Mark said it looks like a seal, but I don't know what the hell this thing could be. Maybe some goat experiment gone wrong or something. Let me know what you think it is in the comments. So then they come to a waterfall and they see all four of the MDR twins at the edge. And then Milchick pops up out of nowhere and says that this is the tallest waterfall on the planet, which is a damn lie. He then leads them to a camp complete with heated luxury tents and an outhouse full of toilet paper. I'm sure the Ennies had never seen fire before, and Mark actually gets to hold the torch, or should I say, Milchick passes him the torch. And I've been seeing a lot of torch symbolism in a lot of different shows from as well. Miss Wong is on the grill and she got a nice fire going, ready for some Kier-faced marshmallows. And then Irv presses Helena about what she saw during the OTC, but she stands her ground again, and he lets her know with his eyes that he's hip to her bullshit. Then we get to one of the dopest parts of the episode, where Miss Wong is playing the theremin as the score to Milchick reading the fourth appendix of Kier's history. Now, the fourth appendix is something that is forbidden on the severed floor, and this is symbolic of indigenous storytelling rituals around the fire, complete with a food offering for the gods, with Milchick ordering Wong to throw the marshmallows in the fire. Some Native American cultures view fire as an actual living entity and a messenger between humans and the spirit world. Smoke will carry the prayers or the offerings to the spirits and the ancestors. And during the winter ceremonies, herbs and other offerings are thrown into the fire. And here's a fun fact about marshmallow. It's actually an herb. For instance, tribes like the Navajo and the Hopi only tell certain stories during the winter because they believe that the spirits or the animals featured in those stories will be asleep and they do not want to hear their names being spoken or it'll wake them up. Even charms and totems that represent these spirits or animals must not be present during these rituals due to the chance of them waking up the animal or the spirit. And we do find our MDR team in a winter setting. I find this compelling, being that Milchick makes it a point to show the picture of the Temper Woe in the book, and then she's actually awakened in Irv's dream. We also see Bert in this dream, and Bert's name was also mentioned around the fire by Helly. I think that when Irv fell into this dream, that he fell into the usage of his third eye. And we do see an eye pop up on the screen along with the letters that can be arranged to spell Egan. However, the letter O can also be seen in the crowd of numbers and letters. And these letters can be arranged to spell Onan, which is the character in the Bible who spilled his seed upon the earth. Helena's face also appears, letting Irv see the connection to her and the Egans. Now, let's look at this for a minute. Here, Egan's face was tossed into the fire, and Irv was dipping Helena's face into the water. Her face shows up on the computer screen, and they made a point to show the face of Kier burning on the marshmallows in the fire as well. But even though Irv was able to get the truth out of Helena and her true inner self to return, the damage had already been done. Because I think that the point of this whole excursion was to create the conditions for Mark and Helly to make a baby. I mean, bro did go in for seconds, right? And this could be tied to that baby Kier that we see at Mark's feet in the title credits. We also got a quick cameo from Gemma.
So you really about to go in for seconds right now?
Nah, back to it though. In season 1, Mark was watching a news debate with Natalie and another journalist, and he called out an incident where a Severed employee at another company that had adopted Lumen's severance procedure ended up pregnant, and instead of discussing it, Natalie actually deflected, and then it goes off.
What do you say, Natalie, to the woman who became pregnant at work less than a month after her company went severed?
We also saw the severed wife having her baby at the retreat where Devin was having her baby, so pregnancy is a reoccurring theme on the show. I think the reveal of Helena's pregnancy will come close to the end of the season, and we'll find out that someone or something else has been pulling the strings the entire time for all of these things to happen. The MDR uprising, Mark freaking out to get his homies back on his team, and also this whole excursion with her getting pregnant. You got to think about it, right? Isn't she the next in line? And she doesn't have a husband and a kid of her own that we know of. We don't, she might, we don't know. But it would make sense for her to have a successor of her own for the Lumen throne. The GOAT references even show up in this episode again, with Irv calling Helena kid. And looking at it in hindsight, it was there the whole time with him saying, "Hey kids, what's for dinner?" And we can't just brush over how trippy the experience Irv had in his dream was. And what is granting Irv this ability to see beyond or access his third eye? I believe that it's tied to the black goo and the possibility that he has already been reintegrated. Hear me out. The black goo directly connects Irv to the season 1 intro sequence, and he's also in the updated version. His actual face appears on that mug. Both of those intro sequences seem to depict reintegration or the effects of reintegration sickness. Additionally, Irv casually uses the phrase "goo eyes," linking the concept of the goo and the eye. In one of Irv's dreams back at MDR, we saw Mark with the goo dripping from his eyes, paralleling the story between Kier and his brother. Irv is also in contact with someone, and I believe it is Ragabi. She explicitly states that she's improved her reintegration process, and how can she do that without extra subjects to test on? Petey claimed to be the first person to suffer from the reintegration sickness. He didn't say that he was the first person to be reintegrated. And Ragabi later tells Mark that Petey's condition resulted from him not following her instructions. What if Irv was reintegrated, he listened to her instructions and guidelines, and it led to his enhanced perception as an innie? Let's not forget that Irv's innie has no recollection of what happened when the OTC ended, and neither do we. Did Bert answer the door? We just don't know. What we do know is that Bert is now following Irv, and their connection outside of Lumen remains a mystery. It doesn't feel like they're allies on the outside. Otherwise, why would Bert be spying on Irv? Now, something has clearly primed Irv for his revelation, and it's not just Helly's deception either. He acquired the knowledge about Helly through his vision, so we have to question what triggered that experience, and I'm thinking it's reintegration. But in all fairness, Irv's Audi does have a list of severed employees, addresses, and he knows about the elevator, and he's working with someone on the outside. So he may be some sort of investigator, and those skills could be shining through to his innie, just like his art abilities. Him having all that stuff is giving like investigator vibes, and his interrogation of Helly and his nearly drowning her for answers could actually be giving us some clues to who he really is on the outside. We don't yet know what fate awaits Irv, but his story is far from over, especially with the unresolved Bert stalking situation and the lingering mystery of who he's working with. But this episode was totally Irv's episode, and John Turturro did an amazing job as always. I mean, Irv went from the most devoted worker to the refiner that was willing to kill an Egan. One point that stood out to me was the way Milchick said the same words that Irv had said to him at Bert's retirement party. Irv told Milchick that he's unsevered and he gets to go home with his memories intact, and no one gets to just snuff his memories away like they never existed, like he never existed. And then Milchick spit those same words back at him before clipping his wings at the end of the episode.
Like they never existed. Like you never existed.
That's enough!
It will be as if you, Irving B., never even existed.
That was crazy. Now let's talk about the main mystery that was solved in this episode real quick. And that's Helena's presence being confirmed in this episode. It is not Heliar, it was Helena the whole time. And I was on the fence about it, but now we know for sure. And all of the signs were definitely there. And we also learned what another one of those security protocols actually does. I have to say this, that I told you that the pineal gland is connected to this in some kind of way. And the esoteric symbolism is what brought us to that plot point. Milchick grabs his walkie and says to remove the Glasgow block now. Now, the word Glasgow comes from the Scottish Gaelic name called Glasshoe, which actually is believed to mean green hollow or a green place or a dear green place, right? And MDR is a green place, but the Glasgow coma scale was developed in the University of Glasgow in 1974 by neurosurgeons Graham Teasdale and Brian Jennett. Now, the name of this device doesn't have anything to do with the etymology of the word itself. It's just called that because it was made at the University of Glasgow. But this device was designed to assess levels of consciousness in brain-injured patients, like coma patients. While the Glasgow Coma Scale is a neurological diagnostic tool and the pineal gland is a hormone regulating organ, both of these things intersect at the concept of consciousness and wakefulness. The Glasgow Coma Scale measures consciousness while the pineal gland influences the state of consciousness with the production of melatonin. I think that we're actually going to hear somebody mention the pineal gland at some point in time in the show. I think it might be Ragabi. Something else I've been talking about as well is the snake oil salesman, and Irv calling Milchick a Montbank ties directly to those theories as well. At first, I was just throwing around some nuance of what a skin salve salesman would have looked like back in the time of Kier. And now we've gotten our first confirmation that my sentiments on this topic could very well be possible in the grand scheme of Lumen's origins. The pineapple pineal connection is also getting some confirmation as well. Severance season 2 has not missed one episode yet. I mean, every single episode has been a banger. And in fact, to me, they just keep getting better and better. This episode even felt like a movie. It felt like a film. Everything about this episode was great, from the cinematography to the acting, the storytelling, the new information that we got. If the episodes keep getting better and better like this, man, we're going to be really waiting for that season 3. And I hope they don't take another 3 years with it. So if you like this video, tap that screen a few times for me by liking, sharing, hopping down in the comments to get the convo started. And if you're not subbed yet, hopefully this will be the video to make you do it. Anyway, just a little something to think about while we wait on the next episode. That's all for my video today. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.